So I'm based out of the Chicago area. I've been with GoJo for about 10 years. But on the manufacturing side, you said 20?
I said 30, actually.
No, it's more like 20. That's okay. So yeah, no, appreciate the chance to sit down with y'all. Maybe before I start, I'm gonna kind of throw it to you guys. Is there anything in particular you want to grab out of this hour we have together? I think you're really curious about on food. You said food service you're doing, right? A little bit of food service?
Food processing.
Okay, so food processing, manufacturing, is there anything in particular, questions you have, or things you want to make sure that we cover today?
I think we're all pretty comfortable in the janitorial and the food service side of it, but when it comes to manufacturing, that's not our strong suit.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully we can help out a little bit with that today. So we'll kind of go over and over with manufacturing. You're pretty good with GoJo general cleaning and sanitizing products now, so we're going to pick up from kind of the heavy duty side on and food service as well. Okay, cool. What else? Any other goals, objectives, or?
I mean, I'd like to know who's the largest purchaser from as an Acorn customer of an industrial product from GoJo, and then possibly like who's the biggest in Indianapolis.
From a GoJo.
Yeah, so like is Allison Transmission, for instance, in Indianapolis one of your largest customers? Like, give me an example.
It isn't a customer, but I would say like Subaru
Right.
is probably our largest heavy duty grit soap scrubbing towel.
Right. So
customer.
like telling me that Subaru buys these 3 SKUs.
Yeah,
That's,
we can talk about that.
That's great for me.
Okay, so Lindsay can get that to you. And Lindsay, just FYI, I'll be having some data for John and you in the next couple of days, really, of our largest accounts in the area as well.
Cool.
So Lindsay will get back to you on
Just
that. We're not
put
gonna
it
cover.
under my name.
So that's up to Lindsay and John on
Yeah.
how we do that. So they'll cover that. All right, so that they'll cover kind of as a one-off. What else? Anything else you want to make sure we cover? All right.
Everything? Yeah.
John, you want to make sure you know?
No, really exactly those kinds of questions, because this is probably one of GoJo's most underutilized verticals. It's that vertical that during pandemic nobody wanted to talk about, and so there's a lot of fences we have to mend because we weren't able to service them. And now people are just coming back, so with changes in laws and rules and stuff, what's the most important messages we can help you communicate to have you become that subject matter expert? Aside from that, just really the linking up of who Steve is and what he does, and then working with, Lindsay and Kathy, and all making this work. But we don't get anything out of it unless there's questions and do you guys know? So as those come up, just holler up. You're in the right house relative to industrial. Some call it manufacturing, so whatever you're.
And then
distribution center.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the majority of the lot.
Okay, like logistics.
warehousing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amazon warehouse is the probably largest growth in this
Got
area.
it. Okay, yeah, we can definitely talk.
Something, I mean,
I mean, there's a ton of manufacturing too, a ton of manufacturing. But yeah, distribution, mostly because of the area you guys are in, I'm sure there's a lot of both. So I think kind of touching on both of those.
and then the only thing I'm aware of is I don't know if Acorn's set up to deliver to USDA food processors.
So I know we have that E2, or the
You too, so, yeah.
E2, so I know we do have that. I set up the job, that's great
Are you
question.
still any processors?
So we say set up, you mean just?
Just get in the building.
Okay.
Like, I believe you got hoops to jump through to make deliveries. The 2 I've talked to.
I never run into that, to be honest
Okay.
with you.
Great question.
I mean, certainly some limitations with the pandemic, right? I mean, during the pandemic.
Well,
was-
this was kind of
Yeah.
follow-up.
And I've had only I shouldn't say post, I guess, since the pandemic, there's certain food plants that I've had to go online ahead of time to fill stuff out,
Yeah.
show I'm vaccinated, and sign that I have to travel to. Generally, to walk into a food processing plant, no,
Okay.
generally. And I've been to a lot of them. So. Okay, so we'll talk food processing, we'll talk manufacturing, we'll make sure we talk a little bit about kind of the logistics flavor, more of the warehousing, things like that. Because it's a little bit different from the products. So go through that. Anything else you can think of?
Scrubbing towels and make sure you cover that.
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
cover that. Okay.
Moss.
All right, good. So here's what we'll do. So you don't need to like turn your heads backwards. If I need you to like look at something, reference, I'll kind of direct you that way. Does that sound okay? Just so you can keep chowing on your pizza, drink your iced tea, and go from there. All right. So we'll talk a little bit kind of about I'll try to make sure you're super excited about the manufacturing base a little bit, kind of give you some things about what's going on there. I'll talk to you a little bit really of how we position GoJo within those markets to the key decision makers and who those might be that you'll talk to. And then we'll talk product a while as well, and kind of the process and tools we have in place to help you determine customer needs and how to move forward. Does that sound okay? All right, so we'll go with that. So you don't need to look backwards, but the first thing we have up there right now is the PMI. So again, thank you for having an interest in manufacturing and industrial. The PMI is the Purchasing Manufacturing Index. And the purpose of that slide is to say, your timing is really good to get us in here to do this. Because over the last 20 months, the PMI has gone in an upward direction. And the PMI is it's production, it's inventory, it's sales all in the manufacturing market. So it's certainly a booming market right now. And I think as a lot of markets have slowed down, this is a great one to try to make some money. And there's really good money to be made in this market. Again, you don't need to turn around, but the slide I have up behind you, what it really states is that in a manufacturing plant, if you sell our program, and let's define program a little bit. So our program means you're doing the general cleaning soap, the heavy duty soap, the sanitizer, the conditioner, the surface wipes, spill kits, our whole line. On the average, roughly, it's just an estimate, this is based on a 30% margin. You can say you go a lot less, you can say you go a lot higher. But if that, roughly it's worth to you about $47 per year per set of hands.
Excuse me.
Bless you. So if you look at your revenue, that's if you have a plant of 500 people, that's roughly $23,000 a year in potential revenue. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's selling it roughly at 30% margin. And when you look at the industrial space, not to be arrogant, but we do really well. Our dispensers stay on the wall. You probably see a lot of old, beat up, dirty GoJo dispensers and orange bottles laying around the scrub sinks. When we're in there, we generally stay. So we stay on the average of about 7 years for the manufacturing market. So what I like to say, and we'll go through this process, is for roughly 2 hours worth of work, you can hopefully make about 150, 160 grand in sales. And here's what I mean by that, and we'll go through it. Of course, it depends on the size of the plant. But generally, we can walk through a plant, and Lindsay does a great job at this. You can walk through a plant in about an hour, get an idea what they're using, how they're using it, where their placements are, maybe where there's gaps. And then we'll get together and we kind of put together a proposal for you that we can go back in there with you. And then we'll present it to that customer. Let's just say that takes another hour. And then there's different ways we can help you with installation. Whether we pay the customer to do it, whether they just want to do it on their own, or whether we can get a GoJo service to come out and do that for you. So I like to say, on the average, 2 hours worth of work, 150, 160 grand. Does that make sense, kind of how I'm looking at it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Does that seem like more or less than you thought that would be for this category?
More, actually.
I think, again, and that we'll go into, but we provide that whole turnkey solution. So we're not just selling, soap and scrub sink, right? We're doing sanitizer, we're doing surface wipes, surface towels, things like that. Up to it. So bottom line is the market's booming. Thanks for having us here today. There's money to be made, and the trends are going in the right direction too. So what I mean by that, and especially I think we're going to see even now just because of the unfortunate events over the past 2 weeks, you're going to see more and more onshoring where business is coming back to the U.S. That already happened, I think, because of the pandemic, the challenges with the supply chain. A lot more stuff's coming back in the U.S. And this is just my gut call. I'm a soap salesman, not an economist, but I think with the current international issues, you're just going to see more and more desire to have things made here and less dependency on foreign sources. So hands are coming back to the U.S. to make stuff, which is great. The other thing, and I think you all know this, and probably maybe personally have the focus as well, is employee well-being. is that it really has, it's a heightened awareness than ever because of the pandemic. So manufacturing plants care a lot about keeping their people healthy. And the other thing would be is, we'll talk about more in an upcoming slide, but because of the shortages of labor, they're trying to recruit good people too. So when somebody walks into a lobby to apply at a location or to come in for an interview, they want to know they feel safe. They want to know it's a good place to work. They want to know they care about their employees. So there's a heightened awareness within our category within manufacturing as well. And again, like we talked about from a distributor standpoint, it's a market that hasn't slowed down. It's not like office space, things like that in retail that slowed down a lot during the pandemic. So it's getting a lot of attention. Does all that make sense? Kind of cool. All right, so let's talk about how to position GoJo a little bit. So we talked about employee, and there's in your book, you don't need to open it up, but this flyer that's on the screen is in your book if you do want to reference it or reference it later. Again, no need to. If I had pizza in front of me, I'd probably be eating the pizza myself. But again, let's talk about like employee well-being. So GoJo, if you can't think about, a lot of people don't know GoJo is Purell. So GoJo invented Purell. And when you look at the market right now, it's really a great 1-2 punch. So the manufacturing side of the business, they knew GoJo. They love GoJo. They'll say, oh yeah, my father, my mother used it for years before we had it in the house. I've used it forever in the factory. We do that. And then now you have the Purell brand that has significant market value, brand value. So really you've kind of put together a kind of a nice 1-2 punch. So when we look at employee well-being, it means a lot. And then the other thing you take a look at is standardization. So our industry, and I don't know what you guys have seen, the manufacturing side has been really fragmented. And here's what I mean by that. They could be getting their general cleaning soap from somebody. Then they have GoJo heavy duty soap. Then the sanitizer they get from another supplier. Oh, and by the way, their surface towels, they've been buying them from Amazon, whatever. So do you guys see that a little bit in our site? So it already was super fragmented. Now the pandemic hits, and all of a sudden you can't get what you wanted because there was just shortages everywhere, and it's multiplied on how fragmented it is. So what we do is we really offer a simplified turnkey solution, and we'll go over inventory in a moment, but we can provide that whole program for you, all those products. And I'm finding more than ever when we talk to the key decision makers, and we'll go over those in a moment, it's something really important to them. Are you guys seeing that as well? Again, and feel free to challenge me on this too. I want you guys to kind of poke holes in what I'm saying. If you think,
I would say the greatest success since I've seen in the pandemic is Centos, unfortunately.
Well, they were the first one that actually had supply.
They had supply,
Yeah.
I think that's
and
what
they
it
extended, they were smart. Most contracts were 5 years that were signed in 2020.
And you bring up a great point, and I think the other reason Centos has done well, it's the labor shortage, right? Because that somebody can minimize the time it takes to take care of their hand hygiene program. So we'll show it a little bit kind of really in a way that we can help with that also. So again, they got trusted, effective solutions, turnkey solution, employee well-being. As we all know, all companies had some challenges with the supply chain during the pandemic. And I can tell you we are in great shape from the manufacturing side. I never look at somebody and say, we'll never, ever, ever have a problem with inventory with us again. I can't promise you that. But what I can tell you is we are in great shape. We've doubled our manufacturing space, we've tripled our output capabilities. We do not have supply issues on the manufacturing side. We are in good shape today. I feel we're in great shape tomorrow. Again, I don't know y'all, but I'm a straight shooter. Again, I can't say you would never, ever, ever have it. But we sure are in pretty good shape, I think, not to have issues go forward.
Have you guys changed anything with your allocation process and that size? And so I think one of the things that if you didn't know this working for Acorn in 2020, you realize real quick, like we're a multi-million-dollar company, we're not a multi-billion-dollar company. And not GoJo, but several brands we knew we just weren't going to get product because we're $1 million company, not $1 billion company. So has GoJo done anything to change that to make it a more level playing field? Because like you said, like I can't guarantee, you can't guarantee that my customer is going to get product, but everybody in the world knows the Cisco's, the US Foods, the HPs, the billion-dollar national companies have more access to inventory than Acorn. Well, we hang our hat on being an independent. We saw it, and not. I mean, you guys did as good a job as anybody taking care of us, but we found out like we know who's getting product and we know we're not.
So, go ahead, Lindsay.
I was going to say, for allocation, the way that we positioned ourselves was really from the first time we had something similar happen when H1N1 hit,
Right.
and that's when you were really seeing the surge in hoarding.
Yeah.
So this time, GoJo leadership really looked at it and said, we have to be fair so everyone gets some. So they based it on your history of your quantities of prior year from 2019. And then we actually built in some extra on top of what your history showed. And that's what truly your allocation was. The reason why it probably felt like the bigger guys were getting more is because they were buying more in 2019. So their inventory levels appeared higher. But they were actually facing the same, on the magnitude that they had the same amount of demand and surge that you were dealing with, and they also were out on allocation. So we placed all of our distributor partners on allocation during COVID. So what's happened now is because we've invested millions of dollars in increasing our capacity, you know, and we've got everything pretty much self-contained at this point for our manufacturing, we aren't on allocation at all anymore. So all of the allocation has lifted, and it lifted first quarter of last year. And we've worked through all of those spaces. What you probably saw last year was more lead times, because we did have some things that, you know, we're ramping up our production and getting our SKUs back up and running. And we were also going through SKU optimization at the same time. So, I mean, you can chime in with allocation.
I mean,
we're
done.
yeah.
The bottom line is you can get as much as you want, whatever you want.
Yep.
I would
There's
say
no
if we were, I know what you're saying. If we were to hit another pandemic, I can't say GoJo's going to change Acorn's percentage to X amount because of any given reason. What I will say is the entire reason we invested those $400 million and vertically integrated all of our supply chain is so that we wouldn't put our distributors into that position again. Again, like Steve said, we can't guarantee that any time, but I don't see that happening unless, like, knock on wood, the world was like falling apart. Yeah, thanks Kevin. But I get what you're saying, and I understand the frustration of that.
No,
but
and I'm
think-
not saying I don't care about inventories and who gets what. I care about processes changing. Like we,
Yeah.
as a salesperson, as a company,
Yeah.
as you have to change your process.
For sure,
And
and
we
that,
can all bury our product and
For sure.
build bigger square footage and stack up. But if your process doesn't change, then we're all going to be in this again.
yeah, and I think the process did change by changing the input, right?
Right.
So if you change the input, the output's going to change, and that's why we made those investments that none of our competitors did. Because we don't want to put people. I mean, you're already seeing supply chain issues with some of our competitors. I don't know if you specifically are, but we're already seeing it in the market now. And not to. I don't want to like knock anybody. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that was a result of the investment we made that we're now not seeing those issues. So, yeah.
Hopefully I answered it. Sure.
Well, it's a great
It
question,
is.
and it's one
It's a
that
fair
affects all of us, both as manufacturers, as channel partners, and even end users, right? How many times have you gone into the store and just see empty shelves? Like, how can that happen in this time and place? And so things that have caused those are really out of the realm of normalcy. And so things like sitting a year ago saying, I'm never gonna pay $4.50 a gallon for gas. It's just never gonna happen. Go fill up your tank, right? So nutty things happen that are out of our scope. But I can tell you today that the manufacturing capacity of GoJo is almost 2 to 1 over our next closest competitor. So in our space, right, we don't do a lot of things. We're real deep and narrow. You can get more of our stuff than anyone. And really, there was a couple of things that were kind of out of our control, right? Government said essential industries are deemed and defined as. And that let out a lot of what we're talking about today. They did nothing wrong, the manufacturers. They had people on payrolls. We were told that healthcare is deemed a priority. And so when you look at it a year from now and you go into their supply closets, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Right.
So was it right? It was what you knew when you knew.
Yeah, sure.
And so from here on out, I can assure you that we could keep you swimming in inventory. Actually, our lead times from order date to shipment have gotten so short that a lot of our channel partners are going, whoa, wait, hang on. I mean, I just ordered this. I wanted to add something to it, and the thing's at my dock. So we are improving in huge amounts.
Yeah.
And it does put us in a better position for the longer term should things come our way. We can't, never did foresee.
But it probably felt during allocation that when you needed additional dispensers and refills for new opportunities, that's when you couldn't go
It was
out and
hard.
sell.
Yeah.
So we were really just trying to help you service your existing customers. And where any of our extra stuff was, when in the essential space, the hospitals were top priority when they were coming and saying, we need cardboard floor stands, for God's sake. They were doing pop-up tents. You guys saw them here. So we were trying to provide hand sanitizer and soap for those spaces because it was an emergency. So I feel without beating this to death, where we are today, we're past that. And when it comes to the space for you looking at new opportunities, whatever vertical it's in, whatever market, availability is there for you, and our lead times are back to standard lead times on our products. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, so if you kind of look at manufacturing value prop, it's really for the facility, whether it's a food processing, a logistical facility, or a manufacturing facility that cares about providing a healthy, productive environment to keep the people at work, working, keep them safe, provide them a whole program, a holistic solution with the most efficacious, best products in the industry, with the GoJo Purell brand together. That's how we help out their facility. So that's the value we bring. Okay? All right. So let's, two of the key decision makers we tend to deal with on our side. Do y'all ever work with like the EH&S, Environmental Health and Safety, or safety managers in your facility? Is that a common person you deal with?
In healthcare,
Okay. How about manufacturing?
I think we talked to, there you check with him about.
Okay.
the-
Yeah. Okay, so who's some of like the key decision makers you deal with? What capacity would they be at, or what titles would they be within?
Typically-
Facility manager.
Okay.
facility maintenance, purchasing are the three
Okay.
that I usually try to get to.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point. Like facilities often will
Right.
talk to safety, say, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And they'll say, give me the SDS, give me the.
Yeah, I deal with one small food
Yeah.
processing plant. I deal directly with the safety director.
Good, good, okay. So let's talk a little about that. So first, let's talk kind of about the safety or the EH&S. So when you're talking to your facilities person, how they might have that conversation, what we do. So if you look at our category on the manufacturing side, and I think of logistics too, because you have a lot of forklifts, things like that flying around. You know, I think if I go back in my career, because Lindsay said I was doing this 50 years ago.
Well, she said 75.
When I first started doing this, with safety cared about, so if a facility was going to talk to a safety manager, or if you were talking to a safety manager, what he or she cared about was if you go to work with 10 fingers, you come home with 10 fingers. Seriously, it was the physical protection of the body. And I think what happened is, this is pre-pandemic, if you go back like maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, companies realized the cost and how it affects production when people are ill and not at work. Because now there's more accidents, because the people that are best trained on the forklift in the distribution center, that person's not on the forklift today. I'm on there, and I'm really not that good at it, because I haven't been doing it for 20 years. So you're more likely to have accidents. And if people are sick, there's a cost to a company for their health care costs, or paying people overtime to come in, et cetera. So facility managers and safety managers started caring a lot more really about the employees' total health. And if you walk through food plants or manufacturing plants or logistical facilities, and again, tell me if you see this, it's not uncommon to see signs that say, get your 10,000 steps in, keep hydrated, you know, free checkups, blood pressure checks. And you guys see stuff like that sometimes in the plants? Because they care now, because they realize there's a cost to it. So our category plays right in employee well-being, and that's really important to them. The other thing that we're seeing with facilities managers and safety managers today is they also seem to be more tied to corporate goals, such as, example, sustainability. You know, they want to make sure that the products they put in are green, they're certified, and sustainable products as well. Do you guys see much emphasis on that in your accounts, on sustainable? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Some do, some don't. I'm seeing a lot of it. Again, every plant's different. but we're seeing a lot of
I
that.
feel like a lot of them say it, but then when it comes down to it,
Yeah.
once they see the price tag, they change their mind.
Yeah, some do. It depends on the facility. Some have a stronger emphasis on it. Now, when you look at the purchasing folks who you guys deal with, one thing that's really changed, and it has to really go with your first questions we had here at this table. Prior to the pandemic, it was more just, can you add some consistency with what I'm ordering, some standardization, and what's your price?
Yeah.
It was cost. But now the first question I have is what you guys gave me today. It's, can you keep me up and going? Can you keep product on my shelf? So that's really important too. And again, like we talked about here for a few minutes, that's an area I think that we really excel in right now, is the ability to keep those plants up and going.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier, and so prior to coming to GoJo, I worked for a staffing company, and I hired clinical roles. And in 2016, I hired 8 nurses, all for manufacturing facilities, occupational nurses. So as you're looking for decision makers, especially in hand hygiene, that's a category that would fall under occupational nurse at a manufacturing facility. I know for a fact that Great Dane has 2 occupational nurses on site. Subaru has one. So these big like OEMs or larger manufacturers all have that role dedicated, and they make a lot of the decisions, especially when it comes to skin products. So I just wanted to add that because it wasn't on the slide.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we talked about,
I don't know about
Like, I think Allison and like AAR
Oh,
is a
yeah,
large,
yeah.
the airplane, they have a physician and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure Allison is like its own city, Allison Transmission. So yeah, that makes sense.
so again, now to look back at the slides, we talked a bit about production. And just FYI, we talked about how like facilities managers, safety managers tend to be, we're seeing it a little bit more aligned to corporate goals. We're also a woman-owned business as well. So if they have any diversity goals, that's something we can play with as well, just as an FYI.
They're
Okay.
also a woman-owned.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, distributors.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So let's talk about selling to manufacturing now. We're gonna get into product a little bit. So I always like to say GoJo's really good sometimes at almost confusing a little bit all the things we have to sell. That we can keep manufacturing super, super simple and make it easy for you. So what we talked about so far is certainly relevant in the marketplace. We have a good value proposition, bringing in that turnkey solution, the Purell brand, people know it, they trust it, the ability to do that, and bringing all those things to the table. So now when you come to the industrial side of it, we'll go through a couple things. So we have all these products, and I'm going to say that in 80% of the situations, we can focus just on 2 products. And in your booklet, again, there's these key SKUs. The first one's going to be our multi-green. It's a pumice-based soap. It doesn't have a real strong fragrance to it. It's kind of a mild, kind of a lime scent to it. Pumice is crushed stone. And that's good really for a lot of manufacturing and logistics types applications. It's meant to take dirt, grease, oil, all that stuff off your hand. It works really, really well, really in a pretty heavy manufacturing opportunity where they're stamping and forging, getting cutting tool fluids, stuff like that on the hands. But the thing is, it's also bio-based and it's very gentle on the hands. So it works really well. I see this as a common product in like warehousing, distribution, and logistics as well. Because they're touching different boxes, shelving, things like that. It's more of that lighter dirt as well. So the multi-green works really well on that. Again, it's pumice-based, which means it's like a light stone. And again, it has some lotion in it as well, so it doesn't dry out the hands real bad. It comes in either a 2,000 milliliter dispenser, which is our most common, or also a 5,000 milliliter.
She's as big as me, as tall as me.
Yeah.
It's a very large dispenser, I would say. It's like,
Yeah, the 5,000, the good application for that is when you go into a big plant, you see like the big Bradley scrub sinks outside a locker room, and the people are nonstop. That's when those are good. Otherwise, they're kind of big in a general
You hear
bathroom.
ching every time it goes.
Yeah, my grandkids, thank you all for that. So and to your point, though, they're always manual too, the heavy duty, because of the viscosity of the soap. So again, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but it's not hard. Multigreen's your go-to in most cases. It's competitive. It's a bio-based formulation that works super, super well. It's not overly fragrant as well. Okay? You have to be cautious of, you mentioned food processing, you have nut allergies. So any plant that is producing food, handling food, or even making corrugate boxes for food really should stay away from a walnut-based product for allergy purposes. So I lead with multigreen. If they like the cherry scent, I'll stay kind of in that area, but go then with the cherry gel. If it's sticky stuff on their hands and not anything related to food, I'll generally go with Supramax. The other application for Supramax, and this isn't great salesmanship, but I'm just sharing with you how to compete in the field, something like what you said with cherry gel. They've used a walnut brown soap for 20 years, and that's what they like using. They've used Presto or Beaver Scrub, some of those soaps, and that's what they like to use. But generally, from an application standpoint, that's how you break it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, plumbing, we run into that sometimes. They'll say, oh, your stuff's clogging my drains. So here's the deal with that. It's kind of a tough situation sometimes. It's hard to really talk to the customer, but what we generally find when that happens, when I talk to the plant, is they don't have a process in place where they regularly clean their drains. And they're not cleaning their drains. So if a drain is already clogged with hair and other types of particles, yeah, our stuff can build off that. But from the studies that we've done, providing you have a good process in place, our products are certified to go through that plumbing. You know, we've done the testing, we have the validation that that works. So we feel that we don't cause the problem, but if there is a problem, we could build off an existing problem. So the way we manage that, and it's always a delicate conversation, is we will give them documentation how to do proper drain cleaning, when and how it should be done. We can't take that angle, but always kind of a delicate
Yeah, I had
situation.
a customer tell me that, and to be honest, I didn't believe him when it's crazy.
We hear it though, we hear it. And we, yeah, and that's something, let us help you with that, let us have that conversation, not that you can't, but we're happy to give them the documentation and share with them how it works.
You just on their line.
No, I've never heard that before.
To clean the drains, it's plumbing through, yeah. Yeah, they should have, and most plants do, but not all plants do. Because they're throwing a lot of stuff down those drains, that can be clogging them, especially like in the trap and stuff. Okay, all right, is there any questions on the Supramax or the multigreen? All right, we talked a little about scrubbing towels, so I'm gonna leave you some samples, take them home. Again, Lindsay can get you samples whenever you need, but here's a bunch of just singles.
Good dip on the cherry.
We'll leave for you guys, so take a bunch. I would like you to use these samples though for yourself. We'll get you samples for your customers.
Yeah.
This is a great product. Do you guys sell any other type of scrubbing towels, like from another brand or anything else?
For hands, I don't think so.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is they're common. Most plants will have a form of these scrubs, whether it's Scrub to Buckets, whether it's White Ball, whether it's Brownie. Again, all good companies, but we have some really unique advantages on this. So the cool thing about this product is, let me pull it out here. The cool thing about this product is that you don't need water. It's a waterless wipe.
Is it
So,
wet, though?
pardon?
Is it wet? Is that damp?
It is, yeah.
We saw Kimberly Clark's water.
Yeah,
was
it's
fine.
just
Yeah. So here's a couple of things. So notice when I pull this out, here's a few differences with our product. I pulled 3 times, I got 1 towel each. All right? A lot of products have slit tops on them, and when you pull it, it's what we call that roping effect.
We call that cha-ching.
Right.
I love when that
No, that's a valid point, right? But at the same time, again, to convert business to you, that also could present it as a cost savings
Is there
potentially
like
to your
a
customer.
sensor, like a wall mount?
We do,
type?
we have brackets. Now, somebody asked if it was wet, so I'm gonna take this right here. So I pulled one out, and I'm getting liquid out of it. And the reason for that is if you look at the nozzle here, it actually rehydrates the towel when it comes back out. So it's less roping. We like to
So
say.
in the room there, is the liquid in the room?
No, it's down below, but when it
Right.
pulls the towel, it kind of builds in there, and then when it pulls it through, it rehydrates it. The other thing you'll notice with ours versus some of the competition, and you don't need to do it now while you're eating, a lot of the towels smell, I don't know if it's a word, I use the word chemically, they smell like chemicals. Ours has kind of a citrus scent to it.
The one Kimberly's orange citrus.
Nice. So I think that's a good thing to have with it. So kind of the unique things about our product would be, again, I think the scent is very favorable. You have the no roping on it. You have the rehydrating of that as well. And the formulation works super, super well. All right.
This is the best
All right.
stuff.
So let's do this.
Oh my God.
I could have. I have more skin up here, unfortunately. All right. So it's a Sharpie. But these work really, really well. So I could take the scrubbing side, and this has lotions in it and everything, so it's really gentle on the skin. I'll take my glasses off. But again, you can just, I'll take the scrubbing, because I had no idea if I'm in.
Oh, yeah, you already got it.
All right.
Done.
So,
That's all.
yeah. All right. So see me tomorrow, I got like a big rash. It means the formula. But I do this just to be weird, but whatever. It's really, the stuff's really easy on the hands. And I don't care whose soap you use, whatever, water and soap dries out your hands. So if you have a product, you have moisturizers in there and they use it often, it's great. And the people that use this usually have really dirty hands. This is a great product for logistics centers and warehouses. And the reason I say that, they're all different. You guys are more than I am. But I always think of that, a lot of the bathrooms are usually like on the perimeter.
They're not allowed to go to the bathroom, so you gotta keep these on the
There you
station.
go. Yeah. So you have this where you don't have water, right? You put them on brackets. Whether it's on different aisles, whether it's by the shipping and receiving area. It's a great product where you don't have water. It's a great product where you need somebody's hands are super dirty. Like if you ever do business with a company like R.R. Donnelly or somebody that gets like these really crazy inks on their hands, soap alone doesn't often get those off. You have to use Supermax and something like this. So when you don't have water, if you're super, super dirty, and also think about like fleets. So if your company has trucks, people on the road, you make brackets, you mount this in the car with a Purell sanitizer as an example, or surface wipes. It works great for fleets. Or just around a big campus, a big company, they could have, golf carts going around doing maintenance and delivering things. So there's a ton of applications. This is the type of product that I just say, they just have to, we try to sell very sophisticated sometimes, just get them to try this. I don't have an exact number, but I think I close 75%, 80% of the time I need to try this.
You know the price point on like that? Does it come by the book or the cake?
So that's their job to go over pricing. But we can absolutely compete with competitive wipes, I'll put it that way. We are very competitive.
4-pack in a case.
Six. Yeah.
The rest of it.
No, we compete really well on that. We really do.
I just sent a sample case to one of Peach's customers. You can follow up with them, but.
Yeah.
It's in your car right now.
All right. Okay, so we talked about the soaps. Any questions on the towels? Or did I miss anything?
Is that it? Is there like a more aggressive towel, less aggressive towel?
This is the most aggressive towel. We have one that's called the fast towel that doesn't have the scrubby side. To me, it's like a diaper wipe. It
Okay.
just doesn't. It's good for cleaning stuff, but it's called. I think this is for the manufacturing market. This is the way to go. 99% of the time. Okay. All right. Now the other product we have is our Hand Medic, and I know we've talked about this. Have you all of you seen this?
Is it cherry flavored?
No. Exact opposite. So again, I know you all eat, but I'm going to give you each one. This product we make in tubes like this. This is a 5-ounce tube. Do you mind passing a couple down?
Sounds like
There's also
Yeah.
probably a thing
No.
Thanks.
Not safe.
So way back in 1930, when I first started calling on manufacturing plants, if I would have walked into a plant, as Lindsay will testify, and I said get lotion, they would have kicked they'd like, get out. Like, what are you talking about? We don't do lotion. We stamp metal, we build things, we weld
I love
things.
it. Like, it's so nice.
It is. It's really different. So here's the deal. There's over $1.4 billion a year spent in plants, believe it or not, on dry hands and contact dermatitis, skin irritation. This product, within 14 days, makes a huge difference if you use it a couple times a day. But here's the deal. So if you're used to like the Bed Bath & Beyond, greasy, fragrant stuff, this isn't it. This is meant so the worker would make it in dispensers, which is what's recommended for the plants. The worker uses this a couple times a day, just the size of a dime in your hand. It will make a huge difference, especially when it's cold outside, with the drying and cracking of your hands. And it also keeps your hands a lot cleaner, because if your hands aren't dried out, they clean a lot better. Which you'll notice on this, it's not greasy, it absorbs quickly, it doesn't have a fragrance, it's almost watery in
Yeah.
some ways.
It's really thin.
But it absorbs quickly and will make a huge difference. This is a product like the scrubbing towels. If they try it, we get great feedback on that. And you don't need a ton of them in the plant. You put them in just a few spots. So you guys use this. You see how you like it. So you can more passionately present it to your customers.
At healthcare, that was one of those just this.
So it's used in
We-
healthcare as well.
We stock
We have a bunch.
it. And what setup does it come in?
675
685
85.
milliliters. Yep, 685.
dispensers, yeah.
So it's a manual dispenser again because of the
Oh, only
viscosity.
dispenser?
So this is the first time I've ever heard of this.
It's awesome.
Do you guys sell a lot of it? Yeah.
A ton of it. So if I go into, how do I want to phrase this? If I look at our traditional industrial distributors, these two SKUs are very, very high moving SKUs.
I think I actually am selling.
Yeah. But again, this is for you all to use,
I
so.
brought that to,
Yeah.
hey, Asia, I brought that to Delara and AJ Floyd.
Thank you.
I brought, when we were there.
Yes,
We
we
got
got
great
samples.
sample bottles, 2-ounce bottles too.
Yeah,
So talk to Lindsay or Kathy, we can give you those, just hand them out.
I have some great.
I think they're 4 ounces, but
2 ounce.
they're 2?
Oh, no, they're 2 ounce.
They are?
Yeah, because I can bring it on the airplane.
Okay.
Because airplanes.
Good to know.
Yeah, I think, yeah, they're 2 ounce.
Yeah.
It's equivalent to like 2 shots of Tito's.
Is that how you,
Follow the science.
Yeah, here it is right here.
Yeah.
That's 2 ounces?
that's what I'm saying.
I think that's 2, right?
It's
You're
2
right.
ounces.
No, you are right.
Okay.
This is the
I
pot.
hate to admit it, but you're right.
Once in a while. All right, cool. So we talked about heavy duty soaps, talked about the scrubbing towels, and we talked about the lotion. Any questions, or did I miss anything on any of that?
You may want to cover the ketchup bottle discontinuation.
Okay, so we talked about the dispensers. The multi-green we don't make in the bottles anymore. All right. But if you want like the small bottles like this, we do make it in the cherry. But generally for trial and samples, we tend to go with the dispensers. You'll be a lot better off if you can trial the dispenser versus a bottle. They tend to be, it's more effective in the trial, they get a lot more use out of it. And again, the dispensers, you can hang them, there's an adhesive in the back. I don't recommend keeping bridge dispensers long-term with, I usually like put a couple screws in there. But to try it out, put it against a cinder block wall, by a scrub sink or something, they stick on real easy.
We
Come
just
off.
use that to scrub it off.
There you go, there you
In the
go.
wall,
So
yeah.
do you need a special dispenser for this?
Yes, so we have a hand medic dispenser. On your sheet that I gave you, it will show you the part number and the dispenser. So this example uses our 8862-06, I believe, something like that, next to the hand medic. So,
That's what I was talking about. It's 685 milliliters
Yeah.
per refill.
so if I pull it, can I get this real quick?
Yes.
You got it? Okay, thanks. Again, any questions, give us a buzz. We don't expect you to memorize all the dispensers, what goes away. Any questions on the hand medic?
Now, do you sell them like this, or is it a sample bottle?
No, we sell them like that, yeah. So they'll use the tubes a lot, would be as an example. Again, people have it at their workstation in the middle of the floor. We'll go in nurses' offices and somebody walks in there and they'll hand out tubes like that they'll give to the employees. They'll keep them in their locker. So yeah, the tubes are very, and do you guys do, and forgive me because I haven't worked there before, do you do like any vending machines or anything like that? Okay, so I'll see them, certain companies will do it like that as well.
Oh, inside the vending machine?
Yep,
Like grains or whatever?
somebody like that, yeah.
Or
they-
even, yeah, or like the manufacturer itself.
Yeah.
All right. So again, the way we're really effective would be is, again, you guys have a lot of things you have to, you guys sell a lot of products. We don't expect you to remember every soap that goes in what dispenser. Get us engaged. And we're really effective is when we go out and do a site audit. So what we talk about on the screen is really, when we go out there, we're going to ask them questions. Like we don't say, hey, try our hand medic. We'll say, hey, let me phrase it differently. If I walk in and I say, hey, are you guys interested in lotion? They're like, no. If I say, you know what, hey, do you have any employees that talk about their dry, cracked hands or dermatitis or any OSHA recordables? almost every plant, they'll be like, oh yeah, Steve over there, we have to get special gloves because his hands are sensitive. Or so-and-so's in cutting tooth fluid, they're allergic to that, so we have to get a special lotion for them. It's almost in every large plant we go into. So when we do the audit, we'll ask questions like that. We'll ask what they're exposed to, what kind of chemicals, what challenges have they had. So we go out there and we do that. The other thing we look for in the site audit is, again, I've been doing the manufacturing for a long time. If I go back pre-pandemic and I walk through a facility, a manufacturing or logistics facility as an example, and I said, oh, let's put sanitizer, the bathroom, the break room, the lunchroom. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense. And then I'd say, you know what, how about by your time clock, because that's a high touch area. No, no, we're good. How about the bottom of the stairwell? I don't know, we don't need all that. Now, nobody tells me no. They don't tell me no, because they know they're high touch areas, high contamination points. So when we do these audits, we very professionally share with them and say, hey, this is a high touch point. How do you think a Purell dispenser would be perceived there? And they'll be like, yeah, great idea, great idea. So when we go on these audits, we don't want to give them what they need, but we point out opportunities and places to make sure that we keep their people safe and also the people coming in their building. So we were talking earlier today, these plants are almost bidding to get people because there's not enough workers. So if I'm looking for a job and I walk in and I have to sign in first at the security desk, and I see they have a nice Purell dispenser there, the first impression is, oh wow, they care about their people. This place is going to be clean. And hopefully
Then you get to the door and start.
right, which happens,
GoJo
right?
dispenser,
Yeah,
and then-
that happens. So, again, perception is really important. So we point out to them and say, hey, you know what, at your guard shack, we have to check in. If you thought about it, at your security office, things like that. So help, get us engaged, let us do the audits. When we do the audits, we win. When we're out there in front of the customer, that's when we do really, really well. In your booklets is also a product placement guide. So get us involved. If you're out on their own, it's just a little reminder to say, oh yeah, let's check the nurse's station. Let's check the tool crib. Let's check the receiving area. Let's check the guard shack. So it's just a reminder of what products are applicable in what places throughout the plant. And within your booklet, I have that map for you. Okay? All right. Now we talked about food processing a little bit. Let's dig into that. Do you do a lot of, go ahead.
Before you go into food processing, do you want to cover the heavy metals?
Sure. So heavy metals would be, thank you for bringing that up. Heavy metals would be plants as an example that work like with lead, nickel, different types of, not stamping, but they're really more in the process or mining of those metals.
Batteries.
Batteries, absolutely. So do you guys work in facilities like that? Not so much. Yeah, they can, but it's
Not heavy,
yeah. Yeah, it's more like
More like a
Arsenic,
nickelback.
lead,
yeah.
nickel.
Nickelback's good. So if they're looking for heavy metals, several of our products have heavy metal claims to them. We could provide the documentation that also shows that it's been tested and it's effective at removing metals from the skin so those chemicals don't get absorbed into your bloodstream. Some of our products have been tested and proven very well on that. There's a brochure in there. So as an example, the multi-green works very well on heavy metals. The scrubbing towels work very well on heavy metals. We have a great foam soap called CRT, Clean Release Technology soap, that works great on heavy metals. A lot of these plants will actually they'll swab the employees when they leave or intermittently to check that they're not getting any within their system. So if you have applications like that, we have multiple products, including shower and shampoos too, that are applicable for that market and can give you the needed documentation to show our efficacy within there. Okay? So that's in there also for you. All right, so food processing, kind of everything we talked about rolls over to food processing, our ability to go out, do the audits, make the recommendations. So I'll try to share a couple things that distinguish us in food processing. Again, it's going to be a program, a whole program. So let's talk product for a second. So we have E1, 2, 3, and 4 soaps. Are you all familiar with what that is? And if not, that's okay.
I'm really E2, I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, so E-rated soaps is through the NSF. the National Science Foundation, that states that a product is good to have, it's applicable and acceptable to have within a food plant. Usually those products have to be fragrance-free, dye-free, and allergen-free. So that's an example why something with nuts probably would not be approved in there, right? So E1 is just a bland soap. It's just a fragrance-free, dye-free, allergen-free bland soap. E2 is very common in processing plants, whether it's chicken, meat, any type of poultry, fish, very common. And it basically is an strong antibacterial soap, again, being fragrance-free, dye-free, allergen-free. It's called E2. E3 is sanitizer with those attributes. E4 is heavy-duty cleaners that are acceptable that you can have within a plant, but cannot be on the plant processing floor. You need to have a proper hand hygiene event before you go back on the floor. A plant is not required to have an E-rated soap. The FDA does not require that. What they require is that a plant has what's called a HACCP process, which means they have a documented process that says this is how, when, and where you need to wash and sanitize your hands in the spirit of food safety. That's what they're required to do. The benefit to an E-rated product is these plants, whether it's a food processing plant or even a corrugate plant that's making boxes, let's say for Kellogg or something, is that these plants get audited. And when they get audited, if they have E-rated products, it makes the audit very simple. If they get audited by the FDA, BRC, SQF, their customer, if they see it's E-rated products, they're like, okay, great, and they proceed with the audit very quickly. If it's not an E-rated product, what they often tend to do is say, okay, that's fine, you have that. Show me the documentation in your HACCP process that shows that it's safe within our plant. So that safety person or facilities manager is going to have to pull out a binder. I guess it's probably electronic more nowadays. I'm still used to seeing binders.
Pull out their briefcase.
Yeah. No, usually though you'll see shelves. They got the binders all. Actually, that's how I see it most of the time. And they'll have to show that GoJo or whoever would provide documentation called the letter of guarantee that states that that product has been tested and safe to have in a food processing environment. It adds more steps and more complexity. So that's why they like E-rated products a lot. You don't need to open it, but within your book, I have one of our technical bulletins. Actually, John, here's I'll show you. Thank you. Here's the technical bulletin on our E2 soap. We have a lot of competitive advantages. So one, it shows the testing both in vivo and in vitro. How we can kill, this shows like 30 microbes will kill 99.99% of the germs. What I always like to show, and this I haven't highlighted for you, is this. In a manufacturing plant, the average person washes their hands about 5 times a day. You figure, lunch, go to the restroom a couple of times. In a food processing plant, it's somewhere between 15 and 20 times. Because every time they touch, if they go to tie their shoe or touch a door handle, they're supposed to wash their hands. So what that does is it heats up your hands because you're washing them all the time. And now you have antibacterial soap in there, and that's a little harder on the skin as well. So what this shows is the irritancy level on our E2 soap is about the same level as baby oil. So it's very gentle on the skin. And that makes a huge, huge difference in food processing plants because they're washing their hands so much. And I don't have data how the pandemic has changed that, but it certainly hasn't lowered it any. So our E2 soap has the best efficacy in the industry, but it's also extremely, extremely mild on the hands for an E2 soap. All right, so from a product standpoint, we have all the products, E1, E2, E3. We have the E4, the heavy duty. We have surface wipes and surface spray you may be familiar with. Those are called D2 rated products. Those are rated by the EPA, not the FDA. We have all that. But again, we provide a program that goes from the assessment of the facility to giving a nice report out of how we think we can help you, to providing the most efficacious products possible. We have programs that can help you with the installation, whether a GoJo team comes out and do it or we pay you to do it. That's a one-off for every client. You have to deal with Lindsay on that. She can help you with that. And the other thing we do, and it's in your booklet, is compliance is huge in food processing. So we can provide you signage in almost any language you can manage, how to wash your hands and how to sanitize. We can put your logo on it, we can put your customer's logo on it. There's an example in your book of that. So we can do that as well. The other thing we can do is when the people get onboarded, they're new, they usually have safety training when they walk into a plant. We have a language neutral disc. The reason I say language neutral, if you walk into a food processing plant, there's all kind of languages in these plants. Some of them can employ thousands of people, and you can have 5, 10 more languages within that plant. It's hard to train people like that. So when you have a language neutral video, it makes it really simple to, it sounds crazy, but how to wash your hands, when to wash your hands, how to sanitize. So again, it's a full program really from A to Z on food processing. I'm out of breath.
So are we, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Are you hungry?
not yet. So anyways, anything I missed or any questions?
I don't think so.
Or if I bored y'all to death, I just don't want to talk about it.
No, it's pretty intrigued, yeah. That's good.
You just like the
But,
lotion.
yeah,
I don't guarantee, because I have a customer that I just had to do that for, and I wasn't really familiar with.
so if ever you need stuff like that, just call any one of us. You have Mike, again, Lindsay's your main contact day in and day out. I'm always happy to help. I'm happy to come out, I only live 3 hours away from here, 3.5 hours. Happy to help with large opportunities, coordinated through Lindsay. I'm happy to run plants. If you ever need stuff like that, just call us.
Well, so you can definitely call me, but once GoJo Connect, the new software that we're gonna be rolling out to you guys gets rolled out, you'll be able to type in any SKU number and get letter of guarantee. You'll be able to get SDS, technical bulletins. So it'll be really easy to access, and that'll be either the end of this month or early next month. But if you need that, it's really easy for me to access. So just email me, text me, whatever. I can get it to you.
I'm gonna leave for you guys to, again, for samples for yourself. It's definitely you guys keep the hand medic, keep the scrubbing towels. The malta green, if you have a scrub stick at home, you might want to use it, but otherwise use that as handouts. But I'll leave all that for you to take when you're done. I'll leave this one bucket. If you need more, let us know. But there's these little packets that are, what I like to do when I walk through a plant, actually I just put a handful in my pocket. I don't
Drop them like popcorn.
Yeah, no, I hand them like 3 or 4. The next time I'm in the plant, I'm like, what did you think of that? And I ask the person, usually we get really good feedback on it. So feel free to use those on your own or handout. Any other questions or anything else?
I guess we touched on decision makers, but for us as kind of a smaller family company, sometimes we have trouble getting into bigger places like that. Do you have any advice or any expertise?
Yeah.
Can you, to stack on that, can you talk about what you were saying, for instance, earplugs and see, like, that's kind of some of the stuff.
Yeah, so like you and I have kind of tried to look at industrial as a new vertical because I don't think Acorn has 10 industrial accounts, to be honest.
We might have to.
But let's
We're
say,
gonna build on it.
but it's less than like 3% of our business, okay? So obviously,
Okay.
Okay.
if we get 10% of our business in industrial, like that's our goal, right? Like we just
Right.
crushed our goal for 2022. But the problem where we lack is we can walk in and bundle everything you offer with toilet paper and hand towel. We don't have the safety glasses, the earplugs, readily available. And that's on us, I completely get that. But the competition's already there, right, with all of that. So I think that's a lot of times like we just feel defeated, deflated, and it's like, well, I tried, but.
Well, that's where you have to do the value proposition, where instead of walking in and saying, me too, I have hand soap, I have hand sanitizer, that you really do a full audit, ask for the opportunity to say, we could potentially make improvements in your safety, your overall solution, whether it's in the industrial back of the house to the front, and start asking them questions and kind of create that conversation around the value proposition of Purell and the Purell solution. And let me help you to separate yourself from, I don't want to say the Me Too, but
Yeah, no, that's exactly who we are.
the Grangers of the world that have,
It's
not
absolutely
sugar.
different.
If I were you guys selling into manufacturing,
This might be my
I would
next
be
question.
really lucky. But I would be leveraging the hell out of your WBE certification.
Yes.
Right.
Because you guys, we obviously qualify for tier 2, diversity spend, but you guys are tier 1.
Right.
And so, and they're really, the level of visibility into diversity spend is just going to increase as we continue bringing businesses onshore. The fact that you guys are a local, family-owned WBE I mean, that's what I would be leveraging if I were you, especially in manufacturing right now, because, you know, like, not made in the USA doesn't really go hand in hand with that,
Yeah.
but people care about that. And then you look at our products manufactured in Ohio, it should be a win-win. But I get those obstacles, but that's what I would be leveraging.
Because, you know, like you said, and you've got Georgia Pacific toilet paper, and I'm trying to bring you into here. And then he goes, great. Do you have, and a lot of times when he goes, great, if I have a mission, do you have, I'm just going to be like, no, sir, no, sir, no, ma'am, no, ma'am, no, ma'am, I don't. And that's, I mean, while we don't want to be the Me Too, purchasing, and we're all well aware, buyers are,
Looking to source to work.
buyers are like, you're a Me Too, and that's all I care about, right?
Yep.
We want to differentiate, and I understand leverage, and I do think that my next point is, and I think I really just this year have started to do this, I'll call on a guy, I'm just too busy, because he just hears me as Derek, a sales rep. Then I'll be like, hey, Lindsay, this is Joe Simpson at ABC. Call him on my behalf and pitch coming from GoJo marketing or whatever. And I think that's something that we as Acorn reps need to do a better job of. Not just being like, well, Joe's never going to give me the time of day. Would he give somebody maybe, like Lindsay sounds more corporate than me sound like I'm a Me Too salesman, right?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and thanks for bringing up the Cintas thing, I forgot to address that with Joe. And you guys know how to sell as good as anybody out there, so, you know, my thoughts would be a couple of things. So and the timing is good to take this approach. So to me, it's like, if I'm talking to them and I'm really like, hey, I'm a service customer, what initiatives today have you put in place around employee well-being, employee health with the pandemic? So I'd ask an open-ended question, right? Just show them what they've done. And then I would this is just how I think I would start. I'd be like, you know what? We've been a long-time partner with Purell GoJo. And what's nice is we can provide the entire program. Because what you're talking about here, they're not getting the whole program, guys, from anybody. I don't care what this you're talking about. We don't do a great job at it. They're getting bits and pieces, making it transactional. So I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, we get some Purell from so-and-so or whatever, or we don't. They'd be like, you know what? We have a program. We're a direct distributor of Purell. With truly no charge, no obligation. And this time when I know you're trying to keep people healthy and at work and make them feel safe, at no charge, I can bring my Purell rep and do a walkthrough of your facility. You know, we'll share with you any thoughts and ideas we have to improve employee well-being. And there's no obligation. Is that something that you think that we could try to do? So that's just my opinion. I try to go in selling a program, and I'm not a real hard sell guy. So it's just like, because right now everybody wants to keep their people healthy,
And
right?
I believe, like, what we saw in our national sales meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think there's still a lot of funding available for a lot of corporations for COVID, and they're being asked to utilize those funds for a better safety profile for their employees. What are you doing with your hand hygiene? You know, what are you incorporating outside of what you were doing before to make them feel like they can go to work and stay safe? And that was never an initiative for anyone before. And now that is a topic that they're discussing in meetings. So the timing, it could be that you're walking in right at the right time, asking all the right questions, going, we just had that in our meeting, what do you have? I have to improve my, I gotta come back next week with some sort of a proposal. Can you imagine if they walked in with a full solution? Because for free, you came back with someone from GoJo, and they did a full audit and did a proposal for you. I mean, it could be absolutely perfect timing for you. So I guess it's asking, again, you may ask 8 people and only 3 align to an initiative that works in that space, you know, where you're going into a competitive space like you're saying. But I kind of agree with you. I think that's how I would look at it. And then you're kind of walking right into a lane where we've been working with Guy on doing a marketing campaign. And he's been working on a list that he just, I believe, gave to
So
Lindsay.
you guys all gave him food.
Yeah, we just sold our customers information to GoJo, that's
True. But we are in turn going to make you money.
I know.
Yes.
So, but yeah, we are. The good thing.
You're gonna have to edit that out.
No, the good thing, we will put all of the customers as you guys as owners in our CRM. But that being said, you guys all provided us a list of targets, and we are utilizing our inside sales team to essentially sell on your behalf, specific to Surface. Just because our Surface products do really, really well in food service. If it's I guess if we bring up the efficacy and safety profile of our product. So hopefully that'll be some passive sales for you guys. It'll just kind of continue the momentum going. I think we've got some good momentum.
Well, and
So I
also
think,
guide,
again, sell the program, sell the turnkey solution, because I don't find those other safety categories pulling our category, to be honest with you. I mean, don't get me wrong, if they're in the plant and if they have the relationship, that's great, but I truly think that they often look at our category independent of safety glasses or gloves and things like that. But yes, they probably have the right context. And when you go against the business service providers like a Cintas, again, fine company, but on the industrial side, when I ask a plant, I'm like, well, why do you use that? Like, well, you know, we like touch-free dispensers. Okay, great. What else? Well, we don't have time to change the batteries and stuff. I get that. Well, we have our ESA system. We never have to change the batteries. And when you peel back the onion in the manufacturing plant, what they're charging rental fee, service fee, a month.
You,
It's
if you can train us
outrageous.
on how to get a customer out of a
So
Cintas
I
crap
can.
contract.
I can.
Yeah.
So Cintas is not WBE or they don't have any diversity.
Okay, so all they have to say is we want to switch to diversity spend.
yep.
Because it used to be the 80-20 rule, and then you got to sit with the guy and be like, okay, then buy your 20% from me, and we'll chip away at this. That was, I mean, you were.
I
chipping
had
away,
a very
chipping away.
large customer just get out of a 5-year
Yeah.
Cintas
Right. Well, I lost some-
sanitizer stand
I lost a
contract.
good area of schools. No fault of its own. We didn't have product. The schools needed product.
Sure.
Cintas rolled in,
Yeah.
boom, and I called him back. And I was like, please tell me you signed like a 1 year. We'll extend it. He's like, no, we signed 6. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my
13 and a
goodness.
half.
Right.
So
So what they do to
WBE.
get out of the contract?
They brought their guns in.
Yeah.
No, they literally, I mean, like I said, contract's only as good as the paper, right?
Yeah, they're all.
But that being said, they just said, we found a woman-owned business provider that's going to provide, and we want to use our diversity spend toward our hand hygiene program. Can you guys offer that? No. Okay.
So what that might do is it might get us the soap and sanitizer from Cintas, and then they have to keep the paper. Again, it might get back
But
to
you
that
get your-
80-20 plan.
Yeah, but you're in
But
there,
again,
right?
you got to get in. Yeah. I mean,
And it cuts out the stand maintenance costs, just on the stands alone I cannot believe, and they never came to service them, ever. So, I'm not trying to like bash Cintas, but it was shocking to me. I didn't know that that was the
That's
case.
the way.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. Cintas is not a bad company at all.
Right.
Some situations they do a very good job.
Absolutely.
Other situations they do a terrible job. Sometimes
Depends
you
on
get
the
dirty
customer,
mats
too.
from the guy
Or the
before.
service guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard the service guy just go in there,
Yeah,
first aid
just-
kit and just like charge them for.
Yeah,
million
yeah,
different
and then
things.
you don't know if accounting's not staying on top of a service provider,
Right,
they're getting overcharged.
right.
It's just like anything.
Yep.
The other thing is Cintas does their inventory. That's what I hear a lot. I don't have time to do the inventory, the order. And,
That's, again, so.
Attitude.
yeah, right.
I mean, you guys know exactly what you're doing.
What about, so let's say we want to do a sales blitz next week, outside of just Googling manufacturing 46240, what affiliations or directories would you use to find
And if you
leads?
if you have any leads, feel free to send them to me and I'll distribute them.
Because, I mean, for instance, you are still a member of Indiana Restaurant Association, is that right?
No, I used to work for the
Yeah,
association.
Okay, former employee, we would use that, right? IRA. I would use, there's a local loan group. Chamber of Commerce's we typically use. What outside of those would you guys recommend that we look for manufacturing opportunities?
Yeah, Lindsay, you want to go there? You want me
I can say what I use, but I don't know that it'll be overly helpful for
to?
you.
Yeah, let's do both. I think it probably we check out
Okay,
what ways
alright.
we do it.
There used to be books, right?
Oh, that might, we have the manufacturing. books,
Right.
I don't know if I would want to say because it's like maybe not.
Is
Okay,
that
so
Wikipedia?
no, I had my old company run a report on every single manufacturer in the state of Indiana and broke it out by zip code, and I was able to save that. So I reference that a lot, and it would take me 2 years to scrub
Yeah, yeah.
to send it to you,
No,
but.
no, it's,
But if we had a work day together and we could if you could set up a couple and I'll set up a couple and then we can,
right. I've had a couple of those
circulate
former
it.
employees
Yeah.
give me some Excel sheets and But I think that's our hardest issue as Acorn sales reps is who do we call and how do I find out who to call?
So how do you do it, Steve?
No, again, I haven't worked with you guys before.
Right.
This is kind of the one thing I think I'd start first is just to get comfortable with the category. Think about the accounts you've already sold the business with, that you haven't pursued the maintenance side of it. They're not gonna be big hits, but maybe it's you guys do business with schools.
Right.
You know, if you talk to the maintenance folks at that school, what are they using for heavy duty salt?
Transportation.
Yeah, transportation's huge, right? So I'd start, although we want revenue right now, big and fast, start where you're comfortable. Start who knows you, who likes you. Share with them your industrial story, get them
Well, that's
comfortable
true.
with that. Yeah, and again, so I don't, I'm not calling on end users every day anymore. But, man, this sounds so archaic, but to me, it's like, you guys drive my territory, you see the big plants. I mean, who do you see? I mean, I remember the old days looking at the manufacturing books and guides, but everybody's looking at those. To me, it's like when you drive
Or,
by, you see something.
in front of a hiring agency, you go undercover.
Yeah, right.
Get
There you
hired.
go.
I know a recruiter, I was in Philippines, so that's great.
But, or think about like a couple markets you want to go after. So if you want to go after food processing, it's pretty easy to, food processing plants in Indianapolis. I don't have a brilliant idea, it's just kind of how I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think now that restrictions are easing up a little bit, I think walk-ins are a lot more doable to get.
Well, my hardest struggle is finding somebody in the building.
Yeah, because they're all short staff.
Yeah, I went into the 3 connected hotels downtown today, and every front desk said, "Go to this front desk, go to this front
Next
desk."
front desk. Yeah, I usually, if I plan a day of walk-ins, I'll usually look up titles on LinkedIn first, write their names down, go in and ask for them specifically. Because otherwise, you're not gonna find anybody anymore.
Do you have Ford Meter?
Ford what?
Ford Meter Company in Walnut.
I can look.
I think they're serviced by a contracted service cleaner, but maybe a great opportunity.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Yeah,
So-
thank
No,
you.
thank you. It was very helpful. That was great.
Yeah, just get us engaged, man. That's the main thing. It's like, you guys got a lot of stuff going on, just get us engaged. Do it quick while it's in front of your mind. What you think. And once you get a win, you'll have it down, and keep building off that.